Hi guys, this is Alex from Mason Lifestyle. I hope you guys are doing well. I hesitated a little bit if to do this sew along video because there is a sew along for this pattern already out in YouTube. It's a great video. However, pattern M8104 has an issue, and it has an issue if you are on the larger size range. That's why you don't see some of the reviews on sewing pattern reviews mentioning on this. So I did this video, and obviously I also ran into the problem because I am sewing this pattern at the same time for the first time with you. So I kept on going with my video, and I will show you how to do the sew along. However, there will be a part where you start working on the neckband, and I will put a link above on the video, and I put a very detailed blog post on my website with pictures as to how to find out if you are going to have this issue with your pattern and how to fix it. It's not a quick fix, but I'm pretty confident that it's something that you guys can work out. All right, guys. Let's get started. Hi guys, so today we're gonna be working on McCalls or M8104, and I am going to be doing view C as in cat, but a little bit shorter. Let me show you about the pieces that you're going to need. You're going to need pattern piece number 1, and this is the bodice front, and you're gonna cut 2, and you are going to see a couple of my pieces that I have perhaps done some adjustments. I just raised the neckline a little on the bodice. So you're gonna need piece number 1. You're also going to need piece number 2, and this is the bodice back. And you're gonna cut this piece on the fold. And again, I raised my waist a little bit in the back. And I'll put all of those changes on the blog. You're also going to need pattern piece number 5, and this is the skirt back, and you're gonna cut 2. You're also going to need pattern piece number 6, and this is the skirt front, and you're gonna cut 2. You're also going to need a pattern piece number 9, and this is the front band. You're gonna cut 4 of fabric, and you're going to interface 2 of those. And then lastly, you have piece number 10, and this is the neckband back. This is piece number 10. You're going to cut 2 on the fold and interface 1 on the fold. All right, guys, go ahead and cut your fabric, mark your notches, and let's get ready. All right, so first things first, the pattern is asking us to do 2 rows of gathering stitches under the bust. And this is piece number 1. This is my front bodice. So I have a dot right there and another dot right there. So I'm going to do 2 rows of gathering stitches. Let me show you what the pattern looks like, right? So again, we have the pattern piece, and you have these dots over here. Pick your corresponding size, and then this large dot, right? So I want you to do 2 rows of gathering stitches, one at 1/2 inch and another one at 3/8 of an inch. Leave your threads long on both sides. Do not lock in your stitches, and use your longest running stitch on your machine. You're going to do that for both pieces number 1. Once you do that, I want you to also grab your back bodice, since you are going to be in the machine. And again, same thing, you have 2 dots back here. So I want you to do 2 rows of gathering stitches back at the dot between these 2 dots, again at 1/2 inch and 3/8 of an inch. Go ahead and do that now. All right, so again, we're going to do 2 rows of gathering stitches, and I have my stitch length at 5. And again, I'm going to do 2 rows of gathering stitches, and I'm going to leave my threads long on both sides. I'm not going to lock in my stitches. So that's 1. Then another row. So again, that's 2 rows of gathering stitches. Again, I left my threads long and we will adjust these later on. So go ahead and do that for both pieces. Number 1, that is your front bodice, and also for your back bodice piece, that is piece number 2. Go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that you did your gathering stitches in the back bodice and the front 2 bodice pieces, I want you to grab your front and back pieces, and with right sides together, you have a notch around here. It's right there. I want you to go ahead and pin. So I want you to pin at both shoulders, and I also want you to pin on the sides, and you have 2 notches right here. So I want you to match those, right? And of course, I want you to pin. So I want you to do that for both sides. I want you to pin on the right and the left side for both shoulders and on the sides. And I want you to stitch 5/8 inch seam allowance. Don't forget the back stitch at the start and all the way to the end. Go ahead and do that for both shoulders and also both sides. So go ahead and do that now. Okay, so we went ahead and stitched our shoulders and our side seams. Guys, we have a little bit of a rounded corner, so just grab your shears and go ahead and just clip into those, right? I am going to finish this in my serger later on, but I want to make sure that you don't forget to do this, just because when you turn this on the right side, you are going to have a lot of fabric kind of like curling here. It's not going to lay flat, and you really want this to lay flat. I'm also going to trim my side seams, but I want to make sure that you don't forget to do this. Super important that you do. All right, so don't forget to do that, and also make sure that you do not clip into your stitches, because that would be bad. So again, make sure that you go ahead and trim any curves that you have on the underarm. All right, make sure that also that you try on your bodice. If it needs to be a little tighter, if you need to do anything in the shoulders, go ahead and do that now. So I went ahead and finished, I pressed my seams towards the back, and I finished my raw edges. I trimmed those too, and I wanted to show you this. Remember how we clipped into those curves? So when I pressed it, that's what happens. It just lay flat. If you don't clip into the curves, this will be like ripply. So make sure that you do that, right? So once we do that, I'm going to put this off to the side, and I'm going to grab pieces number 5, and this is the skirt back. So with right sides together, and you have 3 notches right there. Make sure I match those. And I want you to pin. And I'm using a rayon. It feels amazing, but it is a little shifty. You can always use starch if you wanted to kind of stiffen in some of these fabrics, but I don't want to. I'm just going to, you can pin a little extra or you can adjust as you go. All right, so I want you to go ahead and stitch the center back of your skirt. That's to both pieces number 5. So I want you to stitch and lock in your stitches 5/8 of an inch. Don't forget the back stitch at the start and all the way to the end. Once you do that, I want you to trim your seam. I want you to finish that seam, and I want you to go ahead and press it. Don't forget to press. Go ahead and do that now. So I went ahead and stitched my center back, and I also trimmed my seam, and I pressed it off to the side. So now I'm going to grab pieces number 6, and let's see. Find those side notches. You got 2 notches on this side, 2 notches on this side. So again, go ahead and pin. So go ahead and pin both pieces number 6 to the skirt back. So I want you to stitch 5/8 inch seam allowance. Don't forget the back stitch at the start and all the way to the end. And same thing that we did for the center back. I want you to go ahead and trim your seam allowance and finish your seams. Go ahead and do that now for both pieces number 6. Those are the skirt front. I want you to do it for the right side and for the left side. Go ahead and do that now. All right, now that I stitched my 2 skirt fronts, I went ahead and trimmed my seam allowances and also finished that. So now I want you to grab your bodice, right? And I went ahead and gathered those fronts and also the back, and you can just pull on those threads, right? Put on those threads. Just a little more, okay? Same thing for the front. So now I want you to go ahead and I want you to match your side seams right here. And I want you to also match your center front. And again, same thing on the skirt back. Match those side seams. Same thing for the other front. You have that notch again, right there. Make sure that matches. So I went ahead and pinned my skirt to my bodice. So again, I want you to stitch 5/8 inch seam allowance. Don't forget the back stitch at the start and all the way to the end. So go ahead and do that now. Go ahead and attach your bodice to your skirt. Go ahead and do that now. So I went ahead and attached my bodice to my skirt, and of course, always make sure that your side seams are matching, and then also that you don't have any puckers. And if you do, just unpick a little and just go back at it, all right? So same thing for both sides. Just make sure that those side seams match. So now the pattern is asking you to go ahead and do a narrow hem before we attach our band. So it's saying to go ahead and turn up 5/8 of an inch and then turn 1/4 of an inch. I think I'm just going to go ahead and finish my raw edge and turn it up. Go ahead and do that now. Go ahead and do your hem. So we went ahead and attached our bodice to our skirt, and I went ahead and finished my my seams, and I also pressed my seam allowance towards the bodice. And now I want you to go and stay stitch your neckline. So you have one notch on one side and one notch on the other one. So I want you to start in the center back and work your way to the front with a stay stitch. So again, stay stitching, we're gonna be working on this area by our neckline and our shoulders, and we wanna make sure that this does not stretch on us. So we're gonna do a stay stitch. That's the whole reason why we stay stitch, so things don't stretch on us while we're working on it. So I want you to start in the center back and work your way to the front. And I want to make sure that you lock in your stitches. And again, the center back towards the center front. And you're going to stop right where those notches are at. Go ahead and do that now. Hi guys. So it looks like we're about to start working on a neckband. And if you go ahead and check the blog post, verify that you may have some issues coming up ahead or not before, listen to me, before you sew the back neckband in the two front bands. This is piece, I believe this is piece number 9 and piece number 10. So I'm warning you right now, go check before you get ahead. Once you do your stay stitching on your dress, I want you to put that off to the side. And I want you to grab your back neckband. And I also want you to grab your front neck bands. We usually tend to call this facings, but in the pattern, these are called neck bands because they are front and back bands. So I want you to pin. With right sides together. And I want you to stitch 5/8 inch seam allowance. Don't forget the back stitch at the start and at the end for both sides. Once you do that, I want you to press those seams open. Go ahead and do that now. All right, so I went ahead and stitched my uninterface back and front neckbands. This is how they look. Let me show you, right? And then the pattern's also asking us to stay stitched to a dot and then to cut in that area. So stay stitching because we're going to be working on that curve towards the front where the bust line is at, and we're going to be cutting into it so we can maneuver a little bit better. So I want you to do that. And of course, make sure that when you're cutting towards that dot, that you do not cut your stitches. Okay, so go ahead and do that for your uninterface band. And I want you to go ahead and do the same exact thing for your interface back and front neck bands. And also press your seams open and do the stay stitching towards that dot and clip into it, just like I did with the other one. Go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that we did our neckband, and guys, I found a mistake with the pattern piece for the back neckband. Again, the back neckband. So I put all the information on my blog. There's a link in the comment box below. So let's keep going, and I show you how to fix it and how to spot it, how to fix it, okay? So we're gonna keep going. Now that you got your neckband done, I want you to grab your bodice, okay? And you're going to start from the center back. And with right sides together. Hold on. Right here. I want you to start in the center back. And I want you to match those notches, not the notches, but the seams at the shoulders. Start there. The center back. Okay. So again, center back. And you're going to keep pinning. Hold on, let me adjust myself. You're going to keep pinning down the front. Okay. You have the notch on your front neckband and also on the bodice. Match those notches. And keep going all the way down towards your hem. So I want you to pin both sides. I pinned the left. See if you can see it, right? That's my back. It's pinned on the outside, so right sides together, okay? And then down, all the way down on the left side, okay? And I'm gonna do the same thing on the right-hand side. My facing is a little longer because I didn't know where did I wanted my hem to stop. Okay, all right, so I want you to stitch, right? I want you to start from the center back and work your way to the left, all the way down to the hem. And again, start again at the center back and go ahead and work your way all the way down to the hem on the right side. Okay, and I want you to use a 5/8 inch seam allowance. Do not, listen to me, don't start at one end and go all the way around. That is just going to shift things and your notches are gonna move out of the way. That's why I'm telling you, just the same way that we attach a facing, start at the center back, work your way to the right, start at the center back, work your way to the left. Go ahead and do that now. So I stitched in my neckband and I also trimmed my seams. I also clipped in all of those curves and the corners all the way down, any curves like right here, right? So make sure you do that. And again, I press my seams towards the neckband, and the bottom of this neckband is going to be a little long. It's okay if it is a little long. Do not cut it just yet, okay? So now we are going to grab, the interfaced neckband, and on the outer edge, I want you to press in 3/8 of an inch or 4/8. Do not do 5/8. Do not do 5/8 because we want to try to stitch in the ditch. And if you do more than 5/8, then you're going to be slip stitching, which is not the end of the world, but it means that you're going to be watching a movie and your dress is going to be taking you a little longer. So with that being said, right sides together, right? And keep in mind, what we want to do is we want to stitch and then we want to fold all of this and create a front band and a back band towards the dress. All right, so same thing. Find your, match your shoulder seams. And you are doing this right side with right side. You're going to be pinning all the way around. So it feels a little kind of odd, but just stick with me. and I'm show you what we're going to do for the hem. Go ahead and pin that front neckband that is interfaced to the one that is uninterfaced. Go ahead and do that now. All right, so I went ahead and pinned my entire band, right? So again, right sides together. I'm going to stitch 5/8 inch seam allowance all the way, starting from the center back all the way to the front and towards your hem. And I used a little red ink. I want you to again stitch 5/8, and you had already done your hem, right? We had already done our hem way back. So once you do that, I want you to stitch. So when you flip this over, your entire hem, right, is encased. So go ahead and do that now for your front bands. Go ahead and stitch that now. All right, guys, so we went ahead and attached our band. And remember how I told you down here that you want to just stitch, and you definitely want to cut this. And you want to kind of cut your corners because, of course, you're going to turn it, right? And I have to give all of this a really good press, right? Really good press. And then I also have to stitch in the ditch. But before you do all of that, I want you to also understitch. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to get really close. And you see that stitching right there? That's understitching. And the reason why I'm doing that is I want the seam allowance to stay towards the inside. So let me show you the back. Okay. So here is the seam allowance, and I pushed it towards the area that's going to go in the band towards the back, right? So when I press this, I don't have a seam in the front. The seam is towards the back, right? There's my seam. There's the understitching. So the understitching's toward the back. So I want to make sure that you go ahead and you understitched your band. So it's pretty much the way you're going to understitch. You're going to put your dress in the machine, and you want to make sure that you are stitching that band and that your seam allowance is towards that band. Once you do that, you press it, okay? Then remember how I told you to make sure that you press that band 3/8 or 4/8. It's because I want you now to stitch in the ditch. And stitching in the ditch means that I want to make sure that I'm catching this end and I'm catching it on this seam allowance. If I had pressed that more than 5/8, then this band would have been over here and I would have had to do it by hand. But since I did less, then it's a little bit more towards this seam. And when I stitch right here, I'm going to catch it on this side. So now I want you to understitch, right? And then I want you to go ahead and stitch in the ditch all the way around. Go ahead and do that now. All right, guys. So again, stitch in the ditch. I'm stitching right on that seam line. And what's happening on the back, I am catching that neckband. This helps you not have to slip stitch, meaning needle and thread by hand all the way along. You can do that too if you want to, but this is just a quicker one. So I went ahead and did stitch in the ditch, and my neckband is pretty much, it's attached. And the last thing you have to get done are your buttonholes. And the front band, neckband piece has a kind of like an outline for buttons. Just make sure, of course, that you also have a button in between your bust, because that is essentially what's going to keep this, make sure that you don't have a gap in your bust. Last but not least, of course, you have your hem on your sleeves. I did the hem on my sleeves when I did the hem on my dress. Again, just the pattern's asking you to do a narrow hem. I just finished my edge and turned it up 5/8. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this so long. All right, guys, what did you guys think? Did you have an issue with the neckband? If you have any questions or you are running into problems, go ahead and leave me a comment below. I will do my best to answer any questions. And if any of you in my subscribers or in the sewing community, if you can jump in and also help out another person that is sewing this pattern, I'm always up for welcoming it. If you like this video, I ask you to please give it a thumbs up, and I will see you next time.